Meat pie.
6 a.m. and already the boy ain't right.
Alrighty. Welcome back again, YouTube. Continuing on. And would you look at that, we are back already. Hello, YouTube. Welcome back, everybody. We're just continuing on with our deep dive, nostalgic deep dives. Here we're just going to be diving into some OG public television shows, we'll say, not just cartoons. So these shows, like on PBS and stuff, were the shows when when we didn't have cable, before we got, like, I think DirecTV was one of the first ones we got or whatnot, but when we were just watching like the straight cable, well, not even cable, but public television, like channel 6, channel like 66, I think it was. That was like Cartoon Network or something like that, channel 4. Oh my gosh. But yeah, those OG shows that, were very more fronted for like educational reasons. We weren't into like, entertain, kids that are either on from preschool or just like kids in general, giving them like, that educational public television outside of the usual mindless, I guess, television that we get in most channels. So these are some of the PBS shows that I remember coming up on that were always super big in my memory to this date. The first one we're going to be jumping into is The Big Comfy Couch. Now this one here, I feel like even in concept and just in writing, this automatically just comes off as weird, because you essentially, the main character, I'm pretty sure is a clown, or is just the way she looks, but I'm 100% sure she's supposed to just be a clown with her doll friend, sister, daughter thing. And they go around and, like, I think it's mainly about like manners that they learn about and such, but like just the concept of like some clown woman who goes around giving you like some daily different adventures or whatnot. And I remember you have the dust mites under the couch, clock time, busting it open, busting it open on the floor watch, on the floor clock. And then what else? Big Comfy Couch is always, when I think back on it, was always some wild memories of the clown lady. I forget her name actually. So we're gonna see here in Defunct Land, Defunct TV, the history of the Big Comfy Couch. This is way longer than I remember. Okay, we'll take a look here. Oh, hold on.
In the early 1970s, Toronto residents Ron and Cheryl Wagner moved to a home on Prince Edward Island. The newlyweds, who had recently graduated from university, were flat broke. Cheryl said, quote, "We had a broken down red Volvo, 100 pounds of brown rice, a dog and a cat, a case of tuna, a case of ketchup, and $100. The two searched for work to no avail, until Ron heard that the federal government was offering grants to fund new and creative projects. Ron had a great idea, a touring puppet theater. The two had no puppetry experience, but this did not prevent them from submitting their proposal, which was approved. Ron and Cheryl took their now funded puppet show on the road, touring schools and hospitals throughout Prince Edward Island. The puppets primarily educated children on the human body and medicine. Ron's character, Charlie, had cutaway pieces that displayed the functions of lungs, tear ducts, skin grafts, feeding tubes, and hernias. Cheryl performed in these shows with Ron, although she was a shy performer, too timid to even take a bow after performances. Ron and Cheryl's act soon evolved into the Maritime Clown and Puppet Company, when Ron added a clown character named Happy Trash Picker to the act. Despite initial apprehension, the bashful Cheryl donned a big blue nose and grease paint makeup herself, in order to portray Harry Trash Picker's sister, Slossie. Cheryl was surprised at how much she enjoyed performing as the clown, and it wasn't long until the Wagners were touring thousands of schools and hospitals throughout Canada. Unfortunately, the intense schedule and low pay became too stressful for the couple, who were also simultaneously raising a son and a daughter. Ron and Cheryl separated in 1980, and Cheryl was left with no job and 2 children to care for. As luck would have it, in 1982, a new puppet production was set to film in Toronto, and Cheryl wanted to audition. She drove to the city and auditioned alongside 300 puppeteers for just 10 spots. But Cheryl's talent was evident, and she landed the part. The television show was named Fraggle Rock. Cheryl would puppeteer various characters on the show, as well as voice and puppeteer Ma Gorg. She would also write hand for Cantus and Convincing John, the 2 characters that Jim Henson himself would perform on the show. Cheryl worked for 5 seasons on Fraggle Rock, puppeteering for all 96 episodes of the series. At the time, she also performed on the Canadian children's show Today's Special as the puppet Mrs. Pennypacker.
A Pennypacker tea party is a tea party to the nth degree. A Pennypacker tea party is
I am doing your thing with the puppets.
After both series concluded, Wagner would find work on the Canadian television staple Mr. Dressup. While she enjoyed puppeteering, Wagner dreamed of writing for television. She was able to write an episode of another Canadian show, Under the Umbrella Tree, and she was hoping to write more. As 1990 approached, one of her friends, choreographer and fellow clown Grindel Kucherka, asked Cheryl to develop an idea for a show that she could perform in. Wagner began to brainstorm ideas and was struck by the idea of a clown and a couch. Wagner fondly remembered the large, comfortable couch that her family had kept at their house for years, and with increasing concern of the effects of TV on children, she liked the idea of a television show with an anti-couch potato message. There was one problem with the concept. At 37, Kucherka was too old for the child clown character that Wagner was developing, so she created a second clown character, a grandma clown, for Kucherka to play. The grandma clown would be named Granny Garbanzo, and she would appear alongside the star of Wagner's show, Lunette. Wagner pitched her idea to fellow Fraggle Rock puppeteers Karen Valou and Rob Mills. Mills had his own production company named Radical Sheep. Valou and Mills liked Wagner's concept, and Radical Sheep's Sheep Shop built a massive 6-foot by 12-foot couch to support the pitch. Mills, Valou, and Wagner refined the show for nearly 2 years. While still performing on Mr. Dressup, Wagner saw potential in a 16-year-old actress named Allison Court. Wagner had known Court for years, but it had just occurred to her that Court might be perfect for the star of her show, Lunette. The young Court already had dozens of credits to her name, including voice work on popular animated shows such as Ewoks, Care Bears, My Pet Monster, Madballs, Clifford, and as Veronica on The New Archies, Terry Cloth on Garbage Pail Kids, and Lydia on Beetlejuice. Wagner asked Court to portray Lunette in a demo reel for her pitch, which was being referred to as the Big Comfy Couch. The demo convinced the McLean Hunter Television Fund to give Wagner and Radical Sheep funding, and the Canadian children's channel YTV agreed to distribute the show. With a budget of approximately 1.3 million Canadian dollars, or around 1 million American dollars, 13 episodes of The Big Comfy Couch would be filmed in Toronto during the summer of 1992. And nearly a year later, on Tuesday, March 2nd, 1993, The Big Comfy Couch would premiere to the joy of preschoolers throughout Canada.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to clown around? With Lunette and Molly,
I'll be in the Big Comfy Couch.
with a wiggle and a giggle and some goofy friends.
Oh, I remember the little puppet.
Each
I remember those guys. Oh my god.
On a big green flowery button couch. The large couch was tattered and featured a few frumpy pillows, a blanket, and an antimacassar. Lunette the clown, played by Court, wore a purple hat and red jumper overalls with buttons on the bottom. Her shirt was patterned with the sun and the moon, and her tights featured thick black and white stripes. The childlike Lunette would speak directly to the audience, as well as to her couchmate, her doll Molly. Molly the doll did not speak, and she expressed herself through head nods, head shakes, arm movements, and picture balloons that could be interpreted by Lunette and the audience. Molly was performed by puppeteer Bob Stutt. a puppeteer that had worked on Fraggle Rock and Under the Umbrella Tree. The premiere episode, Upsy Downsy Day, opened with an injured Molly, who had fallen to the floor during the night. The show's primary setting was the big comfy couch, which created a strong connection between Lunette and her young viewers, as the audience was also likely watching from their couches. The big comfy couch's cracks and crevices had an endless supply of objects for Lunette
she would pull the craziest shit out of between the cushions.
Dig through. In Upsy Downsy Day, Lunette would find her old bottle while searching for a bandage for Molly. Molly would mock Lunette for acting like a baby, offending her. She took the opportunity to teach Molly that sometimes people need to be left alone.
Sometimes you need to be by yourself. By yourself.
Molly took Lunette's advice after she lost her red heart balloon. Lunette gave Molly some time to herself, heading off to do her clock stretch, a minute-long stretching segment that would appear in every episode of the show.
It's supposed to just get kids active.
The clock stretch would be just one of the show's many nonverbal segments.
It's so unfortunate because it is such an innocent thing that memes have like completely ruined almost to a degree, but it's just because it's funny. But it is just like so purely innocent.
Segments. Rather than focus on language development like many preschool series at the time, The Big Comfy Couch was tailored to multilingual households, and the show demonstrated communication methods that did not require spoken language. The show was first and foremost about exploring emotions and humanity. Cheryl Wagner said, quote, "We don't do the letters of the alphabet through 26 episodes. Our show is about what it's like to be a human being on this planet. Feelings and development have been a very rich garden for us to harvest." Other characters on the show included the Foley family.
Wow, the Dollhouse family was hilarious. I loved them. I don't know if they were like they were like actual size people like in costumes. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. They were in like costume. That was so, they were always the best part.
The Dollhouse family that lived in a small home next to Lunette's couch. The Foleys would consist of Jim and Eileen and their son Andy. All three would be pantomimed by live actors in full character suits with red clown noses. The energetic Foleys would not speak, but they would make plenty of noise.
It's always that slapstick stuff.
Strange sounds emitted from objects around their house, often requiring the Foleys to determine how to stop the sound. Sometimes the solution was as simple as kicking the noisy item to fix it. The Foley family segments would end with the family dancing, indulging in their awful eating habits, or sometimes both at the same time. The show also featured a pair of sentient dust bunnies named Fuzzy and Wuzzy. Fuzzy and Wuzzy lived under Lunette's couch, and they expressed themselves through screeches, squeals, giggles, and simple phrases. The dust bunnies were often hyper, frantically playing with items that fell off the couch and onto the floor. Fuzzy and Wuzzy were puppeteered by Rob Mills and Bob Stutt. While Molly was aware of the woolly dust bunnies' existence, Lunette never saw them and was not sure that they existed. Dust bunnies in the Foley family would stagger appearances in the episodes of season 1. Another segment with little language, Miss Lunette's Dance Academy, featured Lunette in a large pink tutu and rainbow suspenders, providing dance lessons to live animals or imaginary friends. In the premiere episode, Lunette would teach an unresponsive trio of bunnies named Eenie, Miney, and Mo how to do the bunny hopscotch.
Hop! Come on, guys, you can do it! Now turn! Keep your back straight! Wiggle!
In the episode Pinch to Grow an Inch, Lunette would find the bunny's missing companion, Meanie, and teach him how to do the bunny hopscotch as well. However, Meanie was also uninterested in learning the proper dance moves.
You can do it! To the left! Hop! 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 Keep your ears straight!
The first season's Dance Academy bunny segments would conclude in Ping Pong Polka, where Eenie, Miney, and Mo would resume their dance lesson, again with minimal enthusiasm.
Oh, you were so good! Did you see that, guys? Wasn't he good? Oh well. Maybe next time, guys.
Meanie would be noticeably absent from the group, and conspiracy-minded viewers believed that the characters of Eenie and Meanie, both smaller white bunnies with black ears, were actually performed by the same animal. Lunette also tried to teach Rover, a white tutu duck, to dance, with similar success.
Now waddle! what?
The Dance Academy
There it
encouraged
is.
viewers to rise from the couch and be active, performing activities such as dancing with a streamer, pretending to play sports, playing the statue game, and dancing three-legged. Although the series was named The Big Comfy Couch, much of the show was intended to encourage activity in its young audience. Cheryl Wagner said, quote, "We thought about calling it Get Off the Couch, but it sounded too authoritarian."
Get off the couch. Yeah, nah.
Another regularly
big comfy
visited
couch,
location
right?
in Lunette's home was the bathroom. This simple set featured a sink, a toilet, and a bubble bath. Lunette played in the bathtub, taught Molly the proper way to brush her teeth,
She actually got that whole in.
and made funny
Gee.
faces in the mirror. The world of the show would be small, with almost 2/3 of every episode taking place inside of Lunette's home, near the couch. In every episode, Lunette would leave the
They
big
go
comfy
out to the
couch and venture
yard, yeah.
outside to visit her clown friends, Major Bedhead and Granny Garbanzo. In early seasons, Lunette never went further than Granny's home, which was a circus wagon with a teeter-totter and a garden in the yard. Granny was an elderly clown with glasses and gray hair. She wore a red bandana, green sweater, apron, knit gloves, and rubber galoshes. Granny also carried a feather duster, which she would sometimes use on herself or other characters. Granny Garbanzo was played by Grindel Kucherka,
Yep.
with a heavy accent. She referred to Lunette as
Lunetka? Lunetka? Oi! Lunetka!
and made regular references to the old country.
Let me tell you a story about when I was a young girl. Back in the old days. Back in the old country.
Granny provided wisdom to Lunette, but she was also played with youthful energy.
I do a pretty mean hoochie coochie too.
Fred Stinson, who also performed the character of Andy Foley on the show,
Bedhead.
played the much larger clown, Major Bedhead, the unicycle riding delivery man of Clowntown. Major Bedhead delivered packages daily to Lunette and Granny. Although presumably on the job, Bedhead took the time to chat and play with Lunette and Granny, almost forgetting to deliver their packages. He wore a green striped unitard underneath a pair of hot pink bike shorts and an orange tank top. He had a large red clown afro that stuck out from the slots in his bike helmet. He also wore 2 fanny packs at the same time, one pink and one purple.
Was he hit mention it?
Aside from unicycling, Bedhead had many traditional clown-related talents, including juggling, stilt walking, and pogo sticking. The majority of packages delivered by Major Bedhead were from Lunette's globe-trotting aunt, Auntie Macassar. The kind Auntie Macassar sent postcards and presents to Lunette that matched the episode's theme. In the second season episode Feast of Fools, Auntie Macassar surprised everyone by mailing herself. The character of Auntie Macassar was played by Tabora Johnson, and the name Auntie Macassar was a pun on the word anti-macassar. The character of Auntie Macassar was similar
What?
to that of Uncle Traveling Matt from Fraggle Rock. Other recurring segments of the show included the alphabet game, where Lunette appeared in front of a large toy block with a letter on it. She imitated the shape of the letter with her body and encouraged the audience to guess the letter of the day. Lunette also read storybooks in nearly every episode. She donned oversized glasses to read the stories
Yeah,
to
the
Molly
big
and the
glasses.
audience. The stories were illustrated by
Like,
Karen
that's what,
Ballou
like, really
and would feature
popularized
morals
those.
relevant to the episode.
As far as I
In
remember.
some stories, Lunette appeared as a character in the book images through the use of green screen. One of the most appreciated segments of the series, at least by parents, was the 10-second tidy. Another segment designed to get the preschool audience off the couch. The 10-second tidy modeled accountability by having Lunette clean up after herself. At the end of each episode, Lunette or Molly looked in front of the couch and realized that a giant mess had been made. She would then initiate the 10-second tidy and race to pick up all the items she played with earlier in the show. Likely losing the earned goodwill of parents, Lunette's tidying mostly consisted of her quickly jamming items under the couch cushions with the assistance of sped-up footage.
Yeah.
The first season of The Big Comfy Couch was a huge
But that's
success.
all they had
Canadian
in there,
children
come on.
couldn't get enough of the show, and parents were happy to have a positive role model in Lunette. A second 13-episode season of the show was funded, and it would premiere in March of 1993. The second season added the character of Snickle Fritz, an orange tabby cat who lived with Granny.
Snickle
Like
Fritz.
Molly, Snickle Fritz was nonverbal, speaking only in meows. Also like Molly, he was
that's
puppeteered by
purple.
Bob Stutt. Another character in the episode Wobbly, the character was introduced as a wandering repairman. He repaired Granny's pot
Well, one hole maybe.
and Major Bedhead's unicycle, but had no luck with Lunette's wobbly duck toy.
But it's not fair.
Things aren't always fair.
Mr. Wobbly returned for the season 2 finale, Feast of Fools, as a guest at Granny Garbanzo's beat-based Thanksgiving-esque meal.
Well, don't that beat all?
I can't wait.
After that, he was never seen again. A less noticeable change in season 2 was Lunette's hair. Bob Blakely of the Calgary Herald would get the scoop that Allison Court had to cut off most of her hair after a friend set fire to it with a butane lighter. Bob reported, quote, "He got the flame close to her hair and being dry, it flared up, forcing a mad dash to douse it. Luckily, she wasn't injured." Lunette would have fake hair for season 2's filming, but most viewers could not tell. The Big Comfy Couch continued to be a success, and seasons 3 and 4 were greenlit, premiering in 1994 and 1995 respectively. The show maintained a relatively small budget, with each episode costing around $100,000 to produce. The series continued to explore themes of social and emotional development. One ambitious episode of season 4 would attempt to answer the age-old question, where do clowns come from? In this episode, Lunette becomes concerned when she realizes she doesn't know where she is from.
I don't know where I come from.
Oh my, that's important.
Very important.
Granny Garbanzo explains to Lunette about how clowns come to be. Long ago, before last Thursday, a traveling circus would come to town to fill people's hearts with laughter. The laughter formed magical bubbles that made the world feel light and bouncy. After a successful circus show, all of the clowns then got together to have a secret circus, where they did their best tricks to make each other laugh. As the clowns laughed, magical laughing gas bubbled up until the circus tent floated to the sky. Then, when the clowns were paying attention, a baby clown floated down into the secret circus, and all of the clowns accepted the baby as one of their own. So there, that's where clowns come from.
What?
In 1995,
what? That sounds like an allegory to like a clown orgy, and I don't know how I feel about that. But it sounds like an allegory of a clown orgy that ended with somebody having a clown baby. No, understandably, like it was definitely like awe-inspiring, and then like, you know, having a female lead with like the doll and everything. And she was always trying to keep the crew active. Like I remember this was definitely one of the ones when I was younger that I watched a lot as well. But of course you have the meme now of the stretching time, but this was before my brain had even developed any of that at that point. So it was really just, I think, due to like and I think I also hated clowns at the point. So I think I just enjoyed Lunette and everything at this point. And I remember the dust mites and the freaking dollhouse people were always so fucking funny in the show. Because I think like that's just like the comedy that I came up on with like Looney Tunes and all that, with like the slapstick stuff. So it just was straight up my alley.
The Big Comfy Couch's success in Canada caught the eye of United States broadcasters. Radical Sheep would strike a deal with the Public Broadcasting Service, and in January of 1995, the Big Comfy Couch would broadcast on PBS channels across the United States. The show proved to be a hit in the States as well, and merchandise of the Big Comfy Couch, including books, toys, games, and dolls, were manufactured. In March of 1995, the series was honored for excellence in Canadian television with a Gemini Award for Best Children's Program. Time Life used the program to launch its line of Time Life Kids videotapes, and in addition to sales,
Molly the doll was always sassy as fuck. She never spoke a word, but so much was heard, so much was said. I will say that. She was sassy as hell.
Life would send 20,000 VHS cassette tapes to daycare centers across the US. The show's success also led to discussions of an animated series based on the show, and even a Big Comfy Couch feature film. Despite this, the show would lose funding after its 5th season, which would premiere in 1996. This season would bring the total amount of episodes to 65. In one notable season 5 episode, Don't Tell, Lunette discovered the dust bunnies for the first time. She found Fuzzy, or possibly Wuzzy, in a feathered boa that had fallen to the floor. Lunette assumed that the dust bunny was some kind of toy, and placed it in the Foley's dollhouse, causing the first Foley family dust bunny crossover. This was the last episode to feature an appearance by the Foley family, but Fuzzy and Wuzzy returned in the final episode of Season 5. This episode featured Lunette telling Molly of a dream she had where she shrunk down and met the dust bunnies beneath the couch.
And then I saw the monsters!
The show ceased taping in 1996, but the series continued to air on YTV's sister channel, Treehouse TV, and PBS stations throughout the US. The series had turned its lead, Allison Court, into a star. Court made dozens of public appearances as Lunette, prompting huge lines of fans at each location at which she appeared. She also appreciated the partial anonymity of her role, as it was difficult for children to recognize her out of costume. Prompted by the show's continued success in reruns, a live stage show based on the series was developed in 1998, and Allison Court would tour the US and Canada as Lunette. The show would run into 2000. While most everyone believed that The Big Comfy Couch would not produce another episode, its continued success with audiences would prevent this fate. Throughout the late 90s, the Nashville-based Tadpole Entertainment licensed The Big Comfy Couch for over $100 million in merchandise sales. Tadpole's president, John Cherry, still believed in the value of the brand, but without new episodes, many PBS stations had stopped airing the show. Cherry was told by programmers that if there were new episodes of the series, that they would be happy to put The Big Comfy Couch back on the air. In 2002, Tadpole became the distributor of the series, and Cherry ordered a 6th season of 13 episodes, in which Court, Wagner, and Radical Sheep would return. Cherry also revived talks for a feature film under the working title Get Comfy, although this would not come to fruition.
Yeah, that didn't look like anything good, I'm sorry. Everything else seems good for this. If this was legit stuff for this, I don't know what. What is happening there? I'm hoping that's just something fan made. There's no way that looks. I mean, obviously the glasses are photoshopped, but like even like
for a feature film under the working title Get Comfy, although this would not come to fruition. In the fall of 2003, 7 years after the show's presumed final season, new episodes of The Big Comfy Couch aired. Season 6 featured a few significant changes. Clock Stretch, 10-Second Tidy, and the Dust Bunnies would return, but the Foley family, Miss Lunette's Dance Academy, the Alphabet Game, and Auntie Macassar would not. The couch was also remodeled to feature less tears and more flowers. Another, somewhat noticeable difference from other seasons was that Allison Court was 6 months pregnant during filming. Lunette's baggy clothes covered up the baby bump fairly well. Granny Garbanzo, Snickle Fritz, and Major Bedhead returned, and a new character named Uncle Chester was added. Uncle Chester served the traveler role that Auntie Macassar once filled, but Uncle Chester appeared at Granny's much more frequently. The character wore a kilt and a pith helmet with a weather vane on top. He was played by Edward Knuckles. The season also utilized more actors and puppets. During story time, Lunette would read longer stories that were no longer illustrated, but instead took place in a live-action clown town. Most cast members now played multiple.
What the fuck was that face? No. The clock stretch was during the whole show. I think what they were saying is that once they brought the show back for that last season, that and a few of the other segments were the only things that were brought back from like the original show. But what the fuck was that face? Hold on. What the fuck is she down here doing? What is the baby doing? What is going on?
Instead took place in a live-action clown.
What the fuck?
Downtown. Most cast members.
Bro, I didn't even peep the Hitler stashes. Oh, well, I mean, that's what they used to do with Charlie Chaplin, though. That's the whole bit there, like making that whole thing. So I guess it's the Chaplin versus the Hail Hitler.
Members now played multiple roles in episodes, both their original characters and various extras in the Storytime Clowntown segments, like Alphonse.
You're probably gonna perm and poop my tail up like a squirrel. Ain't gonna catch me walking around all pretty like some girl. So get about my face before I wreck the place.
Season 6 was another success for the series, as a new generation of preschoolers and parents were introduced to Lunette and the gang.
No comment.
In 2003, the cast performed on a Big Comfy Couch-themed float in the Macy's Day Parade.
Fire.
In 2005, another live show was developed, named Wiggles and Giggles and Goofy Friends, which would tour the US, albeit without Allison Court as Lunette. After season 6, the series was just 22 episodes shy of the coveted 100-episode threshold needed for syndication. Nashville Public Television and Tadpole Entertainment believed that an additional, longer season of the show could be produced if it was able to incorporate strategies to combat obesity. Cheryl Wagner and Radical Sheep got to work on producing a 22-episode 7th season. However, Court would not reprise her role, as she was focusing on raising her child. The team instead cast Canadian theater actor Ramona Gilmore-Darling as Lunette. Gilmore-Darling performed Lunette even more childlike than Court had.
Hi! You're here! We're way. Right, Molly?
Many longtime fans would be disappointed by Court's absence, but much of the show's target preschool audience did not notice the change.
I mean, yeah, they're preschoolers. Like, come on.
New segments would
I don't think they even remember getting changed. Like, come on, let's.
be added to the show, including the Cabbage Club Cooking School, where Granny Garbanzo hosted a messy cooking school featuring recipes that should not be tried at
Did you
home.
watch any of these later seasons? Because I don't remember any of them.
All together. Oh, pickle juice.
Major Bedhead encouraged movement through dancing and Clown Chi, as he instructed classes at the Clown Chi Dojo and dancing school.
Oh, that's good, Lunette. Nice and smooth, just like in practice. You got the rubs.
Now, I'll add the padding.
Another addition was Clowndergarten, a school where Lunette taught and played with a group of child clowns. The teacher of the class was also played by Grindel Kucherka. Every time Lunette left Granny's for Clown Town, she would sing a song.
Clown Town, we are going to Clown
That's Molly's face so red.
Clown Town, here we come.
The theme song was also refreshed for the new season, featuring the new Lunette and various parts of Clown Town.
Get ready to clown around.
Wait, where did I hear that from? Holy shit, that just waking a memory. What? Yeah, that song just came out of, I don't know why that song it came out of nowhere, but that sounds really familiar.
For the new season, featuring the new Lunette and various parts of Clown Town.
Get ready to clown around.
Wow, that really just awakened something. I don't know why. Because I really don't, I feel like I remember the later seasons of this, but that little
Cheryl
jingle
Wagner
sounds
continued to
familiar
be
as
the
fuck.
primary creative force behind the show, and her daughter Harmony would also write episodes for the 7th season. As expected, season 7 would be the final season of The Big Comfy Couch, airing in the summer of 2006.
Oh wow, this was 2006? Yeah, I definitely wasn't watching at this point. Holy shit. I thought the show ended way earlier than that. I mean, I guess they did bring the last 2 seasons back afterwards, but still.
This brought the show to exactly 100 episodes. However, the show would be far from forgotten by its audience and its producers. All episodes of The Big Comfy Couch are available on streaming services, including some official releases on YouTube. And in 2015 and 2016, Radical Sheep would release a number of child-friendly apps featuring characters and familiar segments from the show.
Oh yeah, they got apps and everything? Yeah, no. Yeah, at this point, I think I was past my PBS times. SpongeBob even is going to be evergreen regardless of age or whatnot. But I feel like, yeah, at this point, the Big Comfy Couches and all that were never really on my scope anymore.
In October of 2016, a trend of creepy clown sightings throughout the US prompted an unexpected reprisal of the Big Comfy Couch's main character, with Allison Court donning the Lunette costume once more for a sketch on the Canadian comedy series This Hour Has 22 Minutes. In the segment, Lunette defended clowns, claiming that they are not something to be afraid of. Court's reprisal of Lunette surprised the Big Comfy Couch fans that had been watching her play the character since 1992.
That's...
Everybody dies!
Oh.
The Big Comfy Couch was a low-budget show with humble beginnings, but its big heart and talent.
Yeah, no, that was a weird little thing that happened where, like, people were just showing up at random places dressed up as clowns. Like, one of the stranger events that have happened in more recent times. But, like, yeah, there was, like, a whole instance of, like, people just, like, dressing up as clowns at random places. And, like, that just kind of died out. Like, nobody ever really got behind of like what started that or where that came from. I mean, I'm sure it was like one person went viral about it and then you got all these copycats doing it, but like I doubt it was anything actually like structured or planned out or anything like that. But for so many people to hop on the bandwagon, I mean, I guess with TikTok and all that now, you can't be surprised that so many people are waiting for reasons to try to, I mean, I guess you would, because like even with my whole thing with those, like they were never doing it for like views or like to go viral. They were just weird because like there was no way for anybody to know who you were or anything. And like I don't think up to this point anybody's ever come out and said like, oh yeah, y'all remember a few years ago I was that nigga, I was that clown that was showing up all around town and shit. Like no, like it was just a lot of weird ass people being weird as fuck for literally no reason outside of like I guess the public talked about them, but like again nobody knew who you actually were or who nobody knew you, or to this day it doesn't. Like it was just this weird ass event that happened for a few months a couple years ago. And yeah, but like as far as I don't think that ever led to anything or went anywhere. It was just some weird shit. I don't know. For like of all the things that like have come out of certain things, like I feel like that was the strangest. Like at least on like certain other things, like either it's I don't want to say it ended in tragedy, but like you know at least like something came out of it. This that time I just felt like it was just some weird, really like that was probably the weirdest one, just because it died out without any explanation or like outing of anything. Like it at least like would like at least usually culminate to something like, oh yeah, it was some Facebook thing or whatever, or like, oh yeah, there was these weird people on Reddit. Like no, it just kind of just died out. Oh yeah, those people were just being weird for a couple months and then just went back to normal, I guess. What? Like I don't know.
Talented cast and crew turned it into a children's television institution. It taught generations of children throughout the 90s and early 2000s how to explore their emotions and be active. More than anything, according to Wagner, The Big Comfy Couch taught families how to, quote, have fun. The lyrics of the theme song say it all. With a wiggle and a giggle and some goofy friends, clown around on the Big Comfy Couch.
Hey. All right, Defunct Land. That was The Big Comfy Couch, a history of The Big Comfy Couch by Defunct TV, Defunct Land and all that. Amazing breakdown. It's good to see, like I said, I knew on a lot of those PBS shows that they were like always fighting for budgeting and money because public television was so scarce, especially when it came to like educational television for younger audience and kids. That was like the big thing that Mr. Rogers was always fighting for back in the day, and like why he went up to like what was it, that government hearing to like request funding for public television and kids television, because he was such an advocate of like, you know, helping like the younger generation with their film. I mean, just with his show alone, but like just in those other public programmings just benefited off of that as well. But yeah, to see like, yeah, they were like the creators started off like flat broke, got a grant for puppeteering, went across Canada doing the puppets, and then eventually made a syndicated show that ended up spanning not only from Canada to the US and I think worldwide as well. Like that's insane. A lot of these PBS shows, like a lot of people sleep on, but like they were really doing the best that they could at the time. Exactly. Like it's insane to see like how it came up. I mean, and then to make it to 7 seasons, I mean all the way to what, 2006, like that's what, 10 years at least, I want to say, because they started in like 1996, something like that. No, they were even before that, so it was a little over 10 years, I think. Live shows and everything as well. So you know, it's super good to see that the Big Comfy Couch did so well. I think we're gonna dive into one last video here, and then we shall call it for tonight. Oh, finally getting sleepy? A little bit, oh gosh. It's only 4 a.m. Still got, I guess, some time to fall asleep. All right. We're going to dive into one last one by Defunct TV. This should be another one that you can recognize really well, especially from the PBS days. The History of Dragon Tales by Defunct TV. This was another one of those animated public television shows that I watched growing up that I feel like doesn't get I forget how long it was, because I feel like I was like right around the age where like I stopped watching but yes, we're going to dive into Dragon Tales here. Another one of the shows that I feel like I watched when I was growing up, that I fell off on after, I don't know, I don't want to say after we got cable, but like I just got old enough where, because I still like, I feel like was coming back to Dragon Tales here and there. But I know like after a certain point I had to stop watching the show, and it was definitely still going on where they added like new characters and everything that I probably couldn't even recognize to this day now. But one of the most memorable theme songs back from the day. But all right, The History of Dragon Tales by Defunct Land, Defunct TV.
Defunct TV is sponsored by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/defunctland to start browsing privately and securely online. Defunct TV is also brought to you in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Didn't I just hit the PBS viewers like you? That's what PBS used to hit us with. We're brought to you by viewers just like you.
In 1995, Columbia TriStar Television, a studio owned by Sony Pictures Entertainment, was attempting to diversify its content. Columbia Pictures Television and TriStar Television had recently merged into one studio, and they had found success producing shows such as Mad About You and The Nanny. A third studio owned by Sony would be folded into Columbia TriStar, Merv Griffin Enterprises, which specialized in the production of game shows such as Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. On top of this, Columbia TriStar purchased libraries of older television shows to bulk up their library. Finally, a television animation division of Sony named Adelaide Productions would produce animated shows for the company. The studio entered production on an animated Jumanji television series and a cartoon named Project Geeker. They also began to search for more ideas for animated television series. As luck would have it, a secretary of one of the Sony executives tasked with coming up with new ideas was strolling through an arts festival when she came across a series of fantastic drawings depicting variations of one fantastical creature. They were all dragons, and they were perfect.
Okay. Kind of interesting origin. What the fuck was that? What was that dragon painting? Tell me the creators of Dragon Tales is being dragon furries.
In 1977,
Right?
a school
Okay,
teacher by the name of Ron
that
Rodecker
was
awoke from a
weird.
quadruple bypass surgery. The potentially life-threatening operation had instilled in Ron a sense of regret. He said, quote, "If I had died
Dragon balls for real. It's crazy.
right then, my epitaph would have read,
Sorry.
could have been an artist." Always interested in drawing, the 47-year-old felt that he had not pursued his creative passion enough. While in the hospital, he began sketching, drawing dragons, explaining that they were a beast that symbolized the forces in life too big to control. Ron made the decision to pursue his art on the side, continuing his teaching career while entering arts festivals in 1978. He continued to draw, not losing interest in the ferocious magical beasts. 7 years later in 1985, while visiting a flea market, Ron stumbled upon the book, The Encyclopedia of Legendary Creatures, which greatly helps him perfect his dragons. He would begin painting the beasts in watercolors, continuing to show them at festivals. Ron would make a series of short independent books about the creatures called Dragonland. So it went for another decade, with Ron continuing his career as an educator and pursuing his art on the side. That would all change one fateful day in 1995 while he was sitting at his booth at an arts festival, and the secretary from Sony Pictures Entertainment walked by. She was especially drawn to one image of a dragon reading a bedtime story to a young child. She loved Ron's art, asking him if he'd be willing to meet with her boss and come up with a story surrounding the dragons for a potential TV series. Of course, Ron jumped on the opportunity, using the simple plots of his Dragonland books to write the pitch. He met with the Sony executive, Jim Cohen, explaining that his stories could be a way to, quote, teach children to meet new situations with confidence. In Ron's mind, dragons could be viewed as either ferocious enemies or powerful allies depending on the viewer, and a simplified take on this for children, in which dragons could help them learn lessons and approach situations, would make for a great television show. Ron said, quote, "Dragons are with us in one form or another, but we have the choice with how we live with them. They can engender fear and hopelessness, or challenge growth and risk."
He was really for this dragon comparison. I had a dragon comparison for everything.
"I choose to view and portray them as the latter." Cohen was impressed, but he told Ron that the chances were slim to none that the show would ever come of his idea. This was just the nature of the television industry, and on top of this, Sony didn't specialize in producing content for children's television, making greenlighting the show even more challenging. Cohen told Ron that he would try his best, and the two parted ways. Fate, clearly being on the side of the kind school teacher, would bring the Sony executive, completely coincidentally, into the same room as a representative from the Children's Television Workshop. The chance encounter was spent by Cohen explaining Ron's idea, and asking if CTW, the creators of Sesame Street and the biggest name in children's television, would be willing to co-produce the show with Columbia TriStar Television Distribution. The representative loved the Dragonland idea, and after developing the pitch further, Columbia TriStar and CTW entered an agreement to
Respectfully, I respect. Chill out, vibe. We're just chilling up. This is probably the last thing we watch anyway, so we won't run your battery up.
produce an animated show together named Dragon Tales, with Ron coming on as a series creator and producer. The two companies sought funding from the Public Broadcasting Corporation, with television star and producer Wesley Yearn writing the show's treatment, along with a companion series, Show and Tell Me, which would never come to fruition. On January 9th, 1996, it was announced that the new series Dragon Tales was granted $4.2 million for a 40-episode first season. This was part of an $8.4 million grant payout, with the other half of the sum going to the development of a reading comprehension show named Between the Lions. Dragon Tales would also be produced for Canada's public television station, CBC. Right. Ron helped create the designs for each dragon character in the show. The result was not the same as his art, with the main difference being the character's scale and the character's scales. He explained that the dragon's design, shape, and feel for the show were inspired by his golden retrievers, as they provided a lovable and child-friendly source. Korean animation studio Yearn Productions was hired to animate the show. The show's thesis was, quote, "What Sesame Street is for academic readiness, Dragon Tales will be for emotional readiness." And the show's target demographic were children between the ages of 2 and 7. The studios went to work creating the first 40 episodes of the show, and on September 6, 1999, nearly 4 years after receiving its initial funding, Dragon Tales premiered on PBS. In the first season of Dragon Tales, each 25...
Can we just talk about how those early 90s, like early 2000 shows theme songs just always bop. Like, I feel like there's not a single like early 90s show that opening songs or ending songs didn't have some type of music in it that just was hit. It just sticks with you to this day.
5-minute episode of the show was split into two 12-minute parts, each containing an isolated story. The first story of the show's first episode was titled To Fly with Dragons. It started with the show's main characters, siblings Emmy and Max, voiced by Andrea Libman and Danny McKinnon respectively, moving into their new house. Emmy is excited about the move, but Max is hesitant. He cheers up as they enter their brand new playroom, with dragon wallpaper, just like in Emmy's dragon book. The two find a secret drawer containing a box with dragons on it. They open up the box to find an authentic dragon scale. Emmy reads a rhyme to say while holding the object.
I wish with all my heart to fly with dragons in a land apart.
Suddenly, the dragons on the walls come to life, spiraling around Emmy and Max as they are transported to the magical world of Dragonland. Here, they meet Ord, an easily frightened blue dragon voiced by Ty Olsson, and Cassie, a shy and kind pink dragon voiced by Chantal Strand.
I'm Cassie, and this is my friend Ord.
Hi.
The four introduce themselves, and Ord makes everyone dragon corn by throwing kernels in the air and using his fire breath to cook them. Ord explains that he and Cassie are looking for his lost tooth, and they are going to ask their friends Zach and Wheezy if they've seen it. They offer to fly Max and Emmy around on their backs, and the four go to meet Zach and Wheezy, who are conjoined twin dragons voiced by Jason Mikas and Kathleen Burr respectively.
Zach, Wheezy, did I leave my tooth in your room?
I don't know.
Let's go look.
Zach is very clean and straight-laced, while Wheezy is messy and spontaneous. The six then visit Quetzal, voiced by Eli Gabai, the dragon's teacher at the school in the sky.
Hola, niños.
You speak
I knew it. I felt like Dragon Tales was very Hispanic, and they did speak Spanish, because they do look Hispanic in the bit. But I thought I forgot for it. But yeah, they spoke a lot of Spanish in the show.
Spanish?
Sí.
I came from Mexico.
While Ord, Cassie, Zack, and Wheezy are all childlike, Quetzal is more mature and wise, telling the six a story of how the dragon scales work. Max realizes he found Ord's tooth, and Ord uses it to wish that Max and Emmy could come play at any time. Quetzal gives Ord a dragon scale of his own that he can use to communicate with Max and Emmy that he wants them to come play.
Aww.
Quetzal then teaches Max and Emmy another rhyme to get home. Once there, Max and Emmy's parents, yelling from off screen, ask them how they like the new house.
I don't think you ever see their parents either, the whole show.
They both reply that they love it. Each story after this would have a similar format. The kids would start in the playroom, both discussing what they plan to do when they get to Dragonland. They then wish on the scale and are transported back with their friends. All of the stories tried to teach lessons regarding social situations, with topics such as problem solving, trying new things, and compromise being explored. The producers felt that it was important that the show not pretend to give simple solutions to all of these problems, but to instead show ways to make the situations more manageable. The progress was visualized through the dragon badges worn by the characters. Ord's dragon badge would glow when he faced his fears. Cassie's dragon badge would glow when she felt confident, and Zack and Wheezy's dragon badge would glow when they compromised or worked as a team. Each episode would feature an original song as well.
The moon comes out as the sun goes down. You may start to worry as your heart beats like a drum. So you should
More dragons would be introduced throughout the show's run, some appearing more than once. New episodes of Dragon Tales would premiere daily, with 20 episodes being released from September 6th to October 22nd. 10 more episodes would air in January of 2000. The remaining 10 would air in April. Dragon Tales was an immediate hit, and the show would be renewed for a second season of 25 episodes. The main difference between Season 1 and Season 2 was the transition from cell animation, in which frames are composited on layers of transparent plastic cells, to digital ink and paint animation, in which the compositing and coloring are done digitally. This resulted in a subtle change, but when compared, the second season's animation has a noticeably cleaner and more vibrant look. The show would also bring along a line of merchandise, including a Game Boy Color game released in December of 2000, books based on the series, musical albums, and a variety of toys.
Which baby dragons will they find inside?
It's a surprise.
The second season of Dragon Tales premiered on June 4th, 2001. The first 10 episodes would premiere throughout June. In the 6th episode of the second season, a new dragon student at School in the Sky was introduced, Lorca, a pink dragon with a disability. The creators made sure that Lorca's disability was not the focus of her character, and in most episodes that she appeared, her disability was irrelevant to the plot. Season 2 of Dragon Tales would continue airing in September of 2001, airing the season's 20th episode on September 14th, 2001.
This might be insensitive, but since she's a dragon, could she not just fly? Am I tripping? Is that... No, we don't need to go. No, too far. Okay.
The remaining 5
Wait, hold up. Actually, does she not have wings? Is she the only dragon without wings too?
School in the Sky was introduced, Lorca, a pink dragon with a disability. The creators made sure that Lorca's disability was not the focus of her character, and in most episodes that she appeared, her disability...
Oh yeah, you don't even have wings. Yo, sweetie, you might just be a dinosaur. Did you think about that? Like, this might be one of those don't judge a fish by its ability to climb situations. Like, you don't even have wings. Like, are we the same? Really? Like,
it was irrelevant.
I'm stopped. She's already doubly disabled. I'm just mocking
to the plot. Season 2 of Dragon Tales would continue airing in September of 2001, airing the season's 20th episode on September 14th, 2001. The remaining 5 episodes wouldn't...
I guess there are some people there that don't have wings, like the one person here, but outside of that, I mean, everybody else seems... So I guess it doesn't look like it seems rare. It's sucky that you get both the wheelchair and the wings, but you know, I mean, the life.
Air until the next year, picking up the exact same week in September that the show was most likely supposed to air in 2001. The year-long hiatus before the final episodes of the season could have possibly been due to the terrorist attacks of September 11th, which occurred the week that Dragon Tales went on hiatus. After the tragedy, many networks pulled programming either due to content concerns or scheduling changes. While the Dragon Tales episodes certainly did not have any imagery relating to the attacks, PBS stations around the country drastically changed their programming schedules, some running news programming nonstop, while others chose to air PBS kids shows throughout the day, as they scrambled to find consistent programming after the events. It is possible that during this time, it was decided to delay the new Dragon Tales episodes, although this has never been confirmed, and the hiatus could have been coincidental. The final episode of Dragon Tales' second season premiered on October 15, 2002. Earlier that year, a musical stage show named Dragon Tales Live began touring
That looks terrifying. That thing is huge.
the United States. The show featured the main cast, with Ord, Cassie, Zach, and Wheezy appearing in full-body costume form, and real children being cast as Emmy and Max. On March 2, 2003, a musical compilation special named Let's Start a Band aired. This mixed in live-action footage with animation and musical numbers from the show. After this, Dragon Tales went on another hiatus, with no new episodes being produced. While reruns aired regularly on PBS, it wouldn't be for another year that fans of the show would finally hear of its status. In August of 2004, news broke that a third season of Dragon Tales would be created, to premiere in 2005. Along with this, it was announced that a new character, the Colombian-born Enrique, a bilingual 6-year-old, would move in next door to Max and Emmy and follow them on their adventures in Dragonland. This, along with Quetzal having an increased presence in the plots, was an effort to focus the show more on Hispanic culture.
Hi! Hiya, Enrique!
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Great! How's it going?
There was a lot of shows back then that dipped into like the Hispanic culture. Yeah, like Dora, Diego. Okay, I said a lot. Those two examples. This now.
Bien, okay, I guess.
The third season of Dragon Tales,
Mucho Lucho back then. El Tigre. Maybe that was a little bit afterwards. This Spy Kids was also pretty big at this point.
would air from February 21st, 2005 to April 1st, 2005, with 29 new episodes being created, although many of these episodes contain stories from previous seasons. 32 of the 58 stories in Season 3 were repeats, with only 26 new stories being produced. This brought the total episode count up to 94. Dragon Tales would not be renewed for a fourth season. With over 90 episodes to air in reruns, PBS could air the show for years to come. The final story in the show's final episode was titled A Storybook Ending. Max, Emmy, Enrique, and the dragons listen to one of Quetzal's stories, and everyone is transported inside of it. Quetzal tells them to go find a very special book from the wizard sage. After obtaining the special book, containing all of the stories in Dragonland, the three transport back home. Emmy suggests that they write a book of their own about all of their adventures in Dragonland. But what should they call it?
How
Dragon
about
Tales.
a bunch of cool stuff that happened in the land of dragons and fairies and giants and gnomes and unicorns and more? That might be too long to fit on the cover. How about Dragon Tales?
Dragon Tales Live will continue performing until the spring of 2006. A rather irrelevant but interesting Dragon Tales appearance was in the 2006 Adam Sandler comedy Click. Sony, known for their egregious cross-promotion between products, outdid themselves by showing Dragon Tales, a show that they produced, on a Sony television, a product that they manufactured, in Click, a film that they made. Reruns of Dragon Tales would continue airing on PBS until late.
Okay, I mean, you say that like pretty much every property doesn't combine their ad or not to anything else. What? That's not a big surprise. That's dope though. But yeah, I mean, why are you surprised that Sony is using their own merchandise in their own movie? Like what?
Late 2010, ending Dragon Tales' 11-year run. Dragon Tales was an incredibly successful show for PBS, being nominated for 3 Daytime Emmys and becoming PBS's #1 preschool program within its first year on the air. The show helped children tackle difficult social situations in a realistic and entertaining way. The show also introduced many children to some of the differences and similarities between Hispanic culture and their own, in a natural and positive fashion. The approach the show had to its conflicts alone was unique and effective, providing its audiences with tools rather than answers. Dragon Tales had a positive impact on a generation of children developing social skills, and the show's colorful setting encouraged children to use their imaginations and take their own trip to Dragonland. After the show ended, Ron returned to touring arts festivals with his dragon paintings. He was constantly recognized for his work on the show, and the dragons in his art caught the attention of many passers-by. Despite this, he still sold his art for a small price, enjoying seeing people appreciate his dragons. Dragon Tales had both humble beginnings and humble endings, and Ron remembers his time on the show fondly, reminiscing with the children visiting his booth, who were mesmerized at the dragons with which they grew up. Ron's art had a deep emotional impact, possibly illustrated best when a friend of his was nearing the end of his life. On his deathbed, his friend held one of Ron's art pieces, a picture of a dragon holding a child's hand. walking into a sunny valley. Before he passed, he told Ron, quote, "I am fading into that picture." He wasn't the only one.
How sweet.
This video is sponsored by
I would say there was a lot left, but W sponsor. Oh yeah. Beautiful end to the history of Dragon Tales. My defunct TV. Or defunct land. Oh wow, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how, in general, all those PBS shows, well, like, you know, they were catering to, you know, younger the younger demographic, and then especially catering to it in a sense of like actually wanting to educate them in the sense of like not even just like, oh, math and reading and whatnot, but like emotional intelligence, social intelligence, responsibility and everything, while also not feeling like too pandery, I guess, in that sense, because I feel like that's where a lot of like newer age cartoons kind of fails, is that like they get very caught up in their own messaging that they don't really just, I don't know, it becomes more about teaching a lesson than just like having lessons spread out, because like this will, like each episode here, like they said, was always about like a certain social situation or whatnot, but now they're so laser focused on either a certain type of person specifically, or like a certain group of people, or belief system or whatnot, versus like, I mean, like you saw all three of the main characters, as far as like the live children, were all like Hispanic, but not every fucking storyline or plot had something to do with their heritage or whatnot. Didn't have to, like, the whole overlying plot of the story didn't have to be something about, oh, you know, them being Hispanic, but you know, they spoke Spanish here and there. Like they had characters from Mexico and what they brought in newer characters who were bilingual and everything, without, you know, beating it completely over the head, while also still giving like accurate and well mannered thoughts on like social standpoints for kids at such a young age. And so on. And I get like some of those other shows that I was talking about are meant for like a older audience, but then that means I feel like they should be more then in that case I feel like these shows should give them more leeway, in the sense of like stop feeling like they have to like spell everything out, in the sense of make everything so specific to the point where it, you know, it divides their audiences into like, okay, well, this is not the message I'm really here for, versus like, I mean, this message is here, but that's not all that's here, I guess, in that sense or whatnot. And that's what I feel like a lot of those shows currently do, even though they're not necessarily quote unquote like the educational style as these, like, you know, Dragon Tales, fucking Cyber Chase, Big Company Couch. Like they were very obviously meant to, you know, teach and help guide younger audiences, but like at the same time they were able to make that content not seem like, I don't know, like just boring, I guess, in that sense. Like same like stuff like what was it, stuff like Bill Nye the Science Guy, like, you know, making science cool and everything, like making it like digestible to a degree for kids or whatnot, while also making it so like you do learn something at the end of the day. So, you know, you not only feel excited to digest that media, but also, you know, you can't help but to learn from it. And I feel like that's also a talent in itself when it comes to writing. And I feel like, especially at this point in time, hey, hello, Dopamine Civ, welcome from Siberia. Hey, welcome to the chat. But yeah, I mean, that, I feel like that's just like the cadence, especially when it comes to like those PBS shows. They just had like a certain, I don't want to say stigma, I guess, but like they always had a certain, I feel like any of the shows on that always had like a certain meaning or drive behind them that wasn't like just driven by the actual show itself, but usually by the creators of the show, and everything had a very strong belief or drive to, you know, teach kids or to push this development for, you know, the publics and masses in general. Because it's like I said, with PBS especially, like the public broadcasting shows, they weren't making a lot of money at all, if any. Like all of it was going into the production of the show, and keeping a lot of these, and just keeping the lights on. So like that's why you had people like Mr. Rogers fighting for like more funding in those cases, because especially because they were also trying to educate the masses, the youth and everything, in a very like respectable manner. And it wasn't even just like, oh yeah, we're trying to teach them math or like just regular skills. Like we're actually like trying to teach them how to become developed and normal beings, as you know, in those prime ages, versus like a lot of the stuff they have on TV, which was just, you know, like I said, I grew up on the Looney Tunes slapstick BS or whatever. And I'm sure like we had like the shows and movies that, you know, had a story to tell, the Bambis and all that, that were more catered to, I guess, going further into those types of feelings. But having something that on the daily that, like, you know, taught and uplifted a generation, I feel like definitely had an impact on those generations that, you know, grew up with it. So it's just always lovely to see such positive reinforcement actually, you know, do well, even through all the struggle and whatnot, like we saw with the big comfy couch. Like a lot of these people were freaking flat broke before they even got to the show, or like it just so happened upon him. Like he was selling freaking dragon paintings in at art shows, just because that was something that he enjoyed doing, and just so happened to run up across the Sony executives. Same with the big comfy couch. Like they weren't even initially puppeteers, and because they were broken, they were getting grants, they decided, they went off one of their ideas, started running with it, and from there they became so proficient in it that like she worked on multiple shows as puppets, came back and did her own spin-off of like, with, I mean, it did include puppetry and everything, but it wasn't even like the mainstay of what that show was about. It went more into like the clowning that they kind of went into together for a small bit. So it wasn't even, it's just interesting to see like where these people started off with, and like how the show's kind of developed over time and what brings them back. And it's also good to see that like even with their revivals, they'll get like the first few seasons, and then like people are like, yo, we got to at least get another season or two in. A lot of these PBS shows seem like they were so loved that they at least got like a good couple of seasons extra in the early 2000s that I completely missed out on, just with age and growth. But I think that is where we will call it for today, Chitty Chat. I don't know what time it is over in Siberia, but it is almost 5 a.m. here. So I'm going to get these down, try to get at least one of these videos edited for today, and we will be back.